The Calgary Police Service has made another significant seizure of cash and methamphetamine. On Thursday, September 26th, and Friday, September 27th of this year, the CPS Guns and Gangs Unit concluded a drug trafficking operation. With the assistance from the RCMP, warrants were executed at a home in Chestermere, as well as at a storage locker in Calgary. An additional warrant was executed on a vehicle on Monday, September 30th, 2013. As a result of the warrants, approximately 2.1 kilograms of methamphetamine was seized, along with packaging materials and $13,000 in cash. The total value of the methamphetamine is estimated at $210,000. Hung Binh Thai, age 29, of Chestermere, who also goes by the name Tony Thai, is charged with possession of methamphetamine for the purpose of trafficking and possession of proceeds of crime. He was arrested at his home in Chestermere.
Do you guys believe this could be linked at all to the other one from the 11th?
I was actually going to anticipate that very question, and obviously I was here about a week ago. I'm running out of shirts and ties, but biggest seizure in Calgary history last week. In fact, were it not for that seizure, this would have been the biggest seizure, but we were eclipsed by that one. At this time, what I can tell you is, from an investigative point of view, there is no link whatsoever between either seizure, either investigation.
Did these two cases point to maybe a bigger picture of, is meth becoming a bigger problem in the area, or has it always been the area? You guys are just, I don't know, does it speak to anything else about?
Yeah, it speaks to a lot of things right now. And in Calgary, methamphetamine has always played, well, third fiddle to cocaine, to marijuana. Our numbers from 2012 tell us that methamphetamine ranked 8th in the grand scheme of things, but that it is on the rise, significantly so. And seeing seizures like this, I think, speaks to that. And that's a big concern for us. Methamphetamine is one of the most dangerous drugs out there. It's one of the most powerful stimulants, one of the most addictive drugs out there. Goes for roughly the same price as cocaine, but it's a heck of a lot more powerful. In speaking to some of our experts over in our drug section, they'll tell you that we've got crack cocaine addicts that will tell us, stay away from meth, it's dangerous. I'm not a doctor, but when a crack cocaine addict says stay away from something, it's a pretty powerful message. So yes, we are concerned.
Are they actually making it here, or are they bringing it in?
And that's one of the questions that we try and answer with investigations like this. On this particular one, we have no information right now to suggest there was a lab in play with this individual. What we do know is that, what we are alleging is that he was a trafficker of the substance. There are no production charges being laid in relation to Mr. Thai at this time.
So do you think that production is happening here, or that it is being brought in, not in this case, but more in a general sense?
Right, it's hard to say. Have there been meth labs in Calgary? Absolutely. Tied to this guy? No. Is there meth production going on in Calgary? I would say that's highly likely. Is that a concern for us? Absolutely. Methamphetamine labs are extremely dangerous. The types of volatile chemicals that are involved, they can kill you, they can explode. When we step in and we find these things, and they can be the size of a shoebox, we step back and we call hazmat. They're dangerous.
So would this be one of the fastest growing drug problems then in Calgary? Like, I saw a press release that went out at the end of 2012 that just kind of talked about the trends, drug trends.
Right.
And they said that there was something like an 80% increase in.
You read the same thing I did. Yes, absolutely. So methamphetamine, it has increased, absolutely. But in the grand scheme of things, it's still not where we're at with other drugs, again, like cocaine and marijuana being the two biggest ones in Calgary, but it is on the grow. And again, we haven't seen seizures like this in Calgary history, so that there's a market out there. We only know what we see through our operations, our investigations, and what the public is telling us. And on that note, I would add, with an investigation like this too, we rely, and did rely heavily upon help from the public.
Yeah, and what led you to this? Was it just a public tip that somebody said something suspicious is going on?
Kind of. It was two-pronged, actually. We had information from previous investigations that we were looking at, and with assistance from the public, we put the two together, and this individual became a suspect that we started looking at.
Is your gangs unit getting better at this? If we look at the biggest bust in Calgary history, you talked about the speed from July to September and making the arrest on the two gentlemen. Are you guys getting better at this? Are these investigations going quicker at this point?
Investigatively, when it comes to or crime matters, there's methodology that we use, and at the end of the day, it's really the help that we get from the public combined with what we dig up and learn and observe ourselves. There's no two timelines that ever look the same. Again, you're referencing last week's bust, and yeah, you nailed it. That was one where we spoke to just the fluidity of it and how quickly it unfolded. That was just the way that one went down. No rhyme or reason to it. And this one was, I guess for lack of a better way to put it, a little more traditional in our methodology. We just worked through it piecemeal, had information that we used, did our own legwork, and boom, came up with the arrest at the end. It's hard to be definitive in terms of answering that question. It's always different.
Is this individual that's charged, Tony Thai, is he well known to police?
Yeah, Mr. Thai, all I can say about him right now is what's right in front of us, what's right in front of us, which is that he's been charged in relation to this particular seizure. Beyond that, I can't say much else at this time.
Like you can't say if you've had history with him?
Right now, I can't, no.
Can you clarify the dates when these warrants were issued and when he was arrested?
The search warrants took place on September 26th, 27th, and then an additional warrant on the 30th.
That was the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay, and then he was arrested when?
He would have been arrested on the 26th.
So who was in the vehicle then?
Nobody. It
He
was
was just at his house?
the location of the vehicle, I'd have to double check on that for you, but it was a vehicle that we had investigatively linked to Mr. Thai. There was no questions about that. It's a separate entity of vehicle, so for search warrant purposes, it becomes something else. We have to take a little more time to get the paperwork in order before we go into it.
But it was a parked car, not a truck?
No, you bet.
You might have said this before, but what was found inside the car?
The cash was found at the home in Chestermere. The 2.1 kilograms of methamphetamine was found in both the storage locker in Calgary and in the vehicle.
Immediate concerns about violence, gang activity. How would you address that in terms of seeing this increase of huge busts? There's a lot more at play.
Yeah.
What's your message to Calgarians?
You know what? Very similar to the message last week. When we see these kinds of quantities of drugs, we're always concerned about the organized criminal mechanisms behind them. These guys don't do this in a vacuum. There has to be a network in place. The drugs have to be produced somewhere. They have to be shuffled along. They have to be networked, and that involves a multitude of people. And it's a product that comes with a high price point. It's all illicit, and they will generally stop at nothing to protect their product, their lines of supply, and their customer base. So there's always the public safety concern when we're talking about illicit drugs like methamphetamine. Absolutely.
You didn't find any weapons though?
No weapons in this instance, no.
Is that unusual?
Again, it is what it is. When we go and conduct our search warrants, whatever's there is there. As with last week, we had the loaded handgun. In this case, we didn't.
Was it actually a week ago that the other bus
September
happened?
24th.
The one that we did the press release on last week, the actual warrants took place about a week and a half, 2 weeks earlier. We delayed though because we had another search warrant to execute before we wanted to come and share the information with you to make sure we had everything on the table, literally on the table for you. So.
Yeah.